There are several key factors to being the most effective crisis delegate. The first is to know your character. Before you walk into your first committee session, make sure that you know who your character is and how they relate to others on the committee. What functional role does your character play in the committee? What portfolio powers do they have to take independent action? Is there anyone else in the committee they could collaborate or compete with? As an example, say you're the Minister of Finance in a French cabinet committee. Your role would most likely involve regulation of the economy and controlling tax policy, with portfolio powers of overseeing government revenue. You might also have some control over the appropriations of revenue to other ministries in the cabinet. It's also important to know what the motivations of your character are. Do you have interests that may come in conflict with or be different from the overall goals of the committee? Knowing character identity and motivation helps you find your role in the committee and set goals you want to achieve. In our case, perhaps France is considering involvement in a civil war in Gambia, and your character happens to have secret family connections to the rebels. In this case, you might consider supporting the rebel cause even if many in the committee are opposed. This brings us to the second key factor to being a successful crisis delegate: strategic goal formation. Based on the interests your character has, you need to set goals you want to achieve. These goals should be realistic given the powers at your disposal, relevant to the happenings of the committee, and as detailed as possible. You should also have a mix of larger and smaller scale goals that take different times and commitment to achieve. For example, you might attempt to get the government of France involved on the side of the rebels, as well as try to help the rebels win the war through your own financial powers. Now that you know what goals your character has, as well as the tools they have at their disposal, you can act on the third factor to being an effective delegate: strategic goal achievement. For every goal you have, you should craft several different ways to go about achieving it, each of which could succeed if the other fails. It's also important to have a mix of short and long-term plans to achieve the goals as well. Finally, your methods of achieving these goals should be as specific and brief as possible. No action will take place with vague and undirected notes without substance or detail, but page-long instructions often are impossible to carry out in the context of most committees. In our case, you as the finance minister might try to cause chaos for the Gambian government by printing huge amounts of counterfeit currency. You might do this by secretly acquiring templates of the Gambian currency, printing counterfeit bills in unused currency printing rooms in France, and funneling the bills back into Gambia through your family connections. The final factor in being the most effective delegate is flexibility. While you may have a strategic plan in mind before the committee session begins, do not stubbornly forge ahead with plans that turn out to be unrelated to the committee what actually engages with. It is also critically important to spot opportunities or hints that come up during committee sessions that you can exploit for your own gain. If you see the crisis heading in a certain direction, try to anticipate where it will end up and piggyback your own plans off of it. In our example, if your personal connections are somehow eliminated, try and establish relationships with their lieutenants, or see if there is another splinter group you could support. By knowing your character's identity and motivations, setting goals, making plans to achieve those goals, and maintaining flexibility during the committee sessions, you will be well on your way to being an effective and an influential force in your committee.